You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to another episode of Stupid Bitches Say What? The podcast about everything and nothing, but always with vino. This week, we go back in time and discuss some historical events that really shook us to our core.
Listen in while Sean covers the events of the Stonewall Riots, a 6-day riot that fundamentally changed the discourse surrounding LGBTQ+ activism in the United States and the birth of the Pride March, while I discuss the 1980 case that gripped a nation and sparked the internationally recognised phrase, "A dingo stole my baby."
A dingo stole my baby.
What are you drinking, Sean?
Oh, I'm on the Reds.
Ugh.
But I'm on a Shiraz.
I have something to tell you when you get to me, but I'm not going to butt in. Please continue.
Oh, I can't wait. So I'm drinking a Shiraz Vintage 2020 from the Barossa. That's near you, isn't it? Oh, no, that's Hunter Valley.
No, that's South Australia, isn't it, Barossa?
That is. You're right. Hunter Valley's you, isn't it?
Hunter's me, yes. I know. I was thinking, no, I don't live in a fucking Barossa.
And it's called The Kick.
The Kick.
By Tim Smith.
The Kick, is it a naked?
Yes.
Well, I'm on a mission to drink all the alcohol in my house because we're moving in a couple of weeks. So I don't want to fucking pack it and put it in a removalist because really it's going to have to go in my car. I don't want it to go into storage.
I'm torn about state because one, I'd love to be there to help you drink it, but two, I'd hate to be there to say goodbye.
Well, look, it's my
to you.
I've already said to everyone, look, I have had mixed reactions. I've got some friends who aren't speaking to me at the moment because I'm moving.
Some friends are excited.
So, everyone's devastated. People are like, how am I going to live my life without you, Skye?
How do I live
without you? I forget the next one.
I want to go.
But as we've been packing, because we're moving in a couple of weeks, we've been spending the last couple of days packing before I go back to work on Monday, and we realised when we went through our bar downstairs and our upstairs wine rack just how much booze we have. Also, those 2 cases that I got are at the front door still, apart from the few bottles that I've drunk. Yeah, they're just in the box. I didn't have room in my fridge. I have a small fridge. I live with 2 men, okay?
Oh, God.
15-year-old.
I've nearly gone through my 2 cases of naked wine.
I've been fucking ill. I was in
hospital
for 2 weeks and not supposed to drink. So we're on the 11th. On the 11th is our farewell party / drink all the booze in our house. We have a lot of gin for some reason. We have a lot of gin. We've got people give us a lot of gifts that are alcohol, and we have a lot of it. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll be drinking.
Well, anything you don't drink, you've got a car. You're driving over, aren't you? So
yes,
in the back.
I have to fit the cat in the car, and one of the TVs.
Or the couch.
The cat.
The couch. Oh, the cat.
And
what about the dog?
The dog's so we've got 2 cars. So the dog's going in Tyler's car. I'm taking the cat in my car. So we're driving together, but separate, obviously. So it's going to be a bit of a journey.
Yes. Bit of a convoy.
More about that. I feel like I'm going to have many, many stories when we film the podcast after I move.
Oh, yeah. And we've got our Christmas app to do too, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
A special festivity podcast.
Yeah, that's it.
So what are you drinking, Skye?
Look, I'm so excited to tell
Besides gin.
I'm not drinking gin tonight. I have had a couple of vinos down at the Bolo. because we are starting to say our goodbyes because we're moving to Brisbane. So Tyler's friends from work, we had a couple of little cheeky wines. I hope they're going to come to the party on the 11th and help us drink all the booze in our house. But also, just in case some of them can't, we had a little drink this afternoon. But I'm so excited to tell you because for the first time, I'm drinking a 2019.
Shut up, you classy mole.
And it did. I've got two bottles of this. It came from the Free Naked, the normal naked and the Free Naked box. It's a Byron and Harold The Companions, but it's a Cab Merlot, which is a little bit. It's not dry or tart. It's a little bit for me initially, but I will drink the whole bottle and be fine with it. It's like those first couple of glasses. It's not dry.
You got to get your palate to it.
Yeah. It's not what I'd normally love, but after one glass, I'll just drink the whole thing anyway and enjoy it thoroughly. But do you know what I mean? It's not my most favourite.
You know what you're expecting after the first one, don't
you?
you?
Exactly. But it's a 2019. Are you proud of me? Because I
am very proud.
An older wine. I'm always drinking the 2021. I don't think I've ever drunken anything older than a 2021.
I have. Good girl. I love it for you. How's your week been?
Look, it's been pretty good. We are all guns blazing to move. We're packing. Had a clean bill of health from the doctor. I'm sure he wouldn't condone my level of drinking. Once again, I failed to mention how much I'm back on booze. But otherwise,
your bloods tell a different story, so exactly. That's the main thing.
He said to me, I look fabulous. I have a clean bill of health. Everything blood-wise has come back fabulous. I'm healthier than he is, he said to me, based on my bloods. Look, I can't really ask for much more than that. But I was reading something this week from
that's a success story.
About the recommended drinks for adults in Australia per week is 10 maximum, 4 maximum in a day. So 10 in a week, total maximum drinks. 4 per day. So that's talking if you were to drink Friday, Saturday, you'd have 4, maybe 2 on a Sunday is what Australia nutritionists are recommending. So I feel like we don't adhere to that in any shape or form. So I feel like I'm unhealthy in that sense.
I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't think I've ever adhered to that logic. And yeah, I'm sure it is probably the best way to go, but
do you think we'll ever adhere to that? Do you think we could ever just drink 4 drinks and then go consecutively? How many drinks do you reckon we would drink in one evening when it's a big one?
20, oh, God.
25?
More. Vinny and I we've had sessions where we've taken 2 cartons and both cartons have gone. You know, like we've had 24 beers over a night. But that's not like a fucking dinner of 2 hours. You know, that's a stash.
So Tyler's been saying to me for weeks and weeks since I got out of hospital just how stubborn I am and how much I don't listen to what people tell me anyway, including doctors or medical professionals, because I've still been easing myself back into drinking, although I've been quite good, you must admit.
And you are also double back. Let's that. You listen to the important shit.
Yeah, I know, right? But look, drinking is a part of life for me, and I appreciate that that's not the same for many people, and some may say that I self-medicate, but I would say fuck you, because that's not true. I just like to get a little bit loose and crazy on the red vinos.
You say self-medication with booze. I say self-therapy with booze.
I say letting myself go.
I say just leave me the fuck alone.
Relaxing after a really long week. Getting loose and crazy.
Exactly.
I was actually
taking in your spoils.
I went out with a friend last Saturday night for dinner, and this is when I was still not feeling. Today I feel 100%. I feel 1,000% actually. But last Saturday I was still sort of getting there. I was feeling much better than I had been. But I went out for dinner with a friend, and we had a couple of cocktails, and Tyler was like, "Don't drink too much," blah blah blah. Anyway, so I went to her place before we went out, and her husband had a few friends over, and just traditionally they know what I'm like, you know, they give me a shot, and they were all like, here's a shot, have a shot, Skye. And I was like, I can't take a shot. I'm so looking forward to having a cocktail
You're breaking
tonight.
my heart.
I'm so looking looking forward to having a cocktail tonight, and I realised that a cocktail has a lot of alcohol in it, so I'm limiting myself to 2 because I'm still not well. I cannot take a shot, and they were all just like going, what do you mean? And I was like, I haven't been well. Guys, I've been in the hospital. Like, and they're like, it's just a little shot, Skye. It's not even a big one. Just have
it. They think you're part of the Stepford Wives community now. They're like, who's hurt you? What's happened?
And then my friend's husband, who's quite close to the whole medical situation, just swooped in and grabbed the shot and just shot at it, so I didn't have to have it.
Nice.
He's like, I got your back, Skye. It's all good.
I'd like to meet this man who's taken my job.
I know. But I was just like, just even saying to them, guys, I haven't been well. I can't really have shots tonight. They were all just like, are you fucking kidding? Who the fuck are you?
Give us back our Skye.
Who is this bitch? Sorry, I need to. Hang on, I'm trying to find my tissues with that. Yeah, so we're digressing. We're totally digressing.
That's what we do.
It's always the alcohol topic, the what are you drinking, that leads us on these tangents every single week.
Yeah.
It triggers all these other things for us to talk about. So, have we talked about this week's topic yet, other than the intro?
No, we haven't. So it's back in time, which is when we are going to tap into some historical events, hashtag our original name, for this episode, where we think it could be anything that's happened in the past, but something that's important to us or something that we were fascinated by, and we want to discuss and share with the rest of our community.
Definitely. And this is only our second one. So we've done some of the other topics a few times now, particularly in our pilot. But
we've done the pop culture and the true crime a couple. Yeah, you're right.
And we've done, and our pilot was pop culture, so we've actually done pop culture 3 times. So this is only our second
Not
back
once,
time.
Not twice.
But thrice.
Thrice.
I know you so well.
And you have to roll the R. Thrice.
I can't roll. I can roll my tongue, but I can't roll my R's.
Oh.
I know.
Oh. So the Stonewall Riots. The Stonewall Riots refer to the events that started on the 28th of June in 1960.
69!
Dinner for two. When a series is a fancy dinner. When a series of spontaneous demonstrations by the gay community took place at the Stonewall Inn, which was a club in New York City, Greenwich Village, in response to a police raid that began in the early hours of that morning. Now, it wasn't the first raid that they've experienced, or any of the gay clubs in that area. There were a series of raids that used to go on all the time by the police, including one that occurred 4 days prior at the Stonewall, where police seized all the booze and arrested the staff. They also refer to this the Stonewall Riots as the Stonewall Uprising or the Stonewall Rebellion, and it was the catalyst to hold the first Pride March the following year. There's a documentary on YouTube. It's about 45 minutes long, called The Stonewall Uprising, and it's actually really, really good. It's something I'm passionate about for obvious reasons.
I'm
Hashtag
also passionate about it. Makes
well,
me
have a look.
cranky. That wasn't a time of where alcohol was banned or anything. They just were doing it because they thought it was a gay club, though, right?
So they knew it was a gay club. There's a reason why they used to raid it, because the gay clubs couldn't hold liquor licenses, which I'll get to in the discussion. But gay clubs couldn't hold liquor licenses, so that's why when they'd found a gay club, they'd then abuse it, take all the liquor, and shut it down and arrest the staff and whatnot. It was all mafia run. But anyway,
I'm going to write down a question because I'm just going to say it. So, wasn't New York one of the first American states to legalize gay marriage?
I don't know. For some reason, I feel
so
like
they
that
have
was
a
California.
really bad. So yes, I think you're right. So like they have a really bad reputation, then, don't they, of being like anti-gays, anti-LGBTQ plus.
Yes. Look at you.
I'm sorry. I sometimes I pronounce the letters around the wrong way.
It's hard. It's a lot of letters.
But I feel like New York. when I think of New York now, I think that they are so totally.
Oh, totally. And the Empire State Building, the Empire State Building gets lit up in all the pride colors for fucking Pride Month and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very progressive. And these should have been
But it
some
wasn't
of the
very
fucking
progressive at the
no,
time.
well, it was very crime filled and fucking mafia run and police corruption and all that shit back in the day. Do you remember New York was a real fucking dangerous city? It was the highest murder capital in the world and all that stuff. They had to really clean it up. But yeah, back in those days, let's go back in time to New York City in the 60s. And times then they actually weren't so great for us Mo's or women or people of color. You know, it wasn't a great, it wasn't a progressive time. But being known as part of the LGBT community back then also had drastic consequences. So being openly out meant you were likely to lose your job. More than likely, you would have been kicked out of home. You'd lose family and friends. Even though I know that some of that still goes on today, it was like more often than not, that was the case. That was your consequence for being gay. It was terrible times where being open really wasn't considered as an option. So the only places people would be able to show their true colours were at local beats, clubs and bathhouses. And it's at these places that the LGBT community could actually get together and openly be themselves and show affection and dance together without being harassed or arrested. So during the 60s, there was a campaign to get rid of all the gay bars in New York City due to the concern of the image that it was causing for the city prior to the World Fair they were hosting in 1964. Gay bars had all their liquor licenses revoked, and police would do whatever they could to entrap as many gay men as they could. And they would do this by approaching gay-looking men in a bar or a park, start a conversation, and if the conversation looked like it was heading to them leaving together, or if the man accepted a drink that the cop bought for them, they'd be arrested for solicitation. There was even a reference to one guy when one police officer went to a bar, or went to a club, leaned up against the wall and started moaning and grabbed himself on the crotch area as he was moaning. And someone said to him, "Are you okay, mate?" Well, probably didn't use the word mate, but said, "Are you okay, dude?" And they arrested him, the guy that asked him, "Are you okay?" So it was very heavily fucking shit. But one of the first US national gay rights organization, called the Mattachine Society, was able to get the newly elected mayor to end the campaign of police entrapment in the city. However, they weren't able to convince the New York State Liquor Authority to start approving liquor licenses for gay establishments based on the fact that the business might become disorderly. And so I'll also note that apparently any standard bar in New York City at the time that served a drink to someone whom appeared gay in front of a police officer was automatically classed as a disorderly premise. So no gays had nowhere to drink. It was fucked. The bars.
Why is it that so many people in this world want to prevent people from doing stuff that has no bearing on themselves? Do you know what I mean? Or why do you want to cause them any type of harm because they're different from you? I just don't understand it.
I don't get it either. And what it is,
it's like, never hurt anyone else. Don't get me wrong. There's things that I don't tolerate and I'm against.
Of course.
But and I would be.
If you're not hurting anybody else, including yourself, then fucking mind your own business.
I would never want to interrupt someone's life because I didn't agree with the way that they were living. I would just be like, do you know what I mean? It's your life. I don't understand it, but I'm doing my own thing over here. And, my life's hard enough as it is because bringing up children and just actually living and paying bills sometimes is quite difficult. So do you mean
I think it's kind of like, and I don't know, governments, I guess, have a lot to do with it as well, but where they sort of feel that they're easy to control if everything is cookie cutter, everything is in straight laced. We got man, woman, we got everyone go to church, everyone go to school, wife serve your man go to work, rah, rah, rah. It's all a living system of fucking mechanics. And then there's spanners get thrown in the works when somebody, hey, I'm a woman and I'm actually smart and I actually want to study my doctorate in rah, 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 rah. Oh, no.
if you want someone to vote for you and you appeal just specifically to that kind of niche, and
which
there's
is the
enough
majority.
people,
Yeah.
if there's enough people in that niche, that's enough. But then you lose like so much humanity, I think. Like
100%. You lose all the humanity. The world is big enough for all the fucking different colours of the rainbow.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And the problem is, to when they sort of have that approach where they just want to serve one sort of lifestyle, is that the people who don't fit into that lifestyle make themselves fit into that lifestyle and then hate their own kind and hate themselves
and that
and end up doing
generates a
terrible
whole
things.
another horrible side of things. And then
Totally.
there's also people who have too much money and then they enforce that culture because they have the money to try to influence things in ways.
Influence.
It's really sad.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. But a lot of progression has happened. There's still a long way to go. But at least we live in today's days and not those days. And in 20 years' time, people will be saying, at least we live in these days and not those days.
I know, right?
You know?
It will be way more progressive. And I try, I live in a regional town now, and it's different from living in Brisbane City, because I tell you what, there's a lot more small-minded people down here than there was when I was living in Brisbane. And I do feel... I didn't think that we had so far to go as a country, Australia-wide, until I moved to a regional place. And then we just bring in the whole, First Nations, Indigenous people thing, and that's just a whole another thing which I don't claim to know anything about, and I will never, ever claim to understand the hardships of the First Nations or Indigenous people of Australia. But I feel for you, and I just,
stand with them.
If you don't have to cut this bit, but I just want to say that I'm behind you 100%, all the way.
Dittos. I'm with you there.
Whatever you need to do.
Yeah. So back to the Stonewall thingy. So the bars and the clubs then that started popping up where gays could actually frequent were in fact owned and controlled by the mafia, the mob, or organised crime groups. So they saw an opportunity where they could make money in an area where the state wasn't actually serving them. So they'd set up these clubs where they owned the booze that stocked the bars. They owned the cigarettes that stocked the smoke machines in the bars. And more than likely, they got the booze and the cigarettes off the back of a lorry. So it was all just completely 100% profit for them. The mobs or the groups would pay off the police to prevent frequent raiding, as was pretty standard back then. So if a raid was going to happen, the club would be made aware that it was going to happen, and they would generally happen early in the evening when the club wasn't busy, and when after all the schmozzle had happened, it would allow them to reopen again that night and make all the profit.
Wow.
So that was the 60s, basically, in New York.
That's something to say for the fucking mob. And also, like, they were only doing it because they could make money.
Exactly. And, they ripped the fucking gays off as well. So anyway, the Stonewall Inn. Yeah, so the Stonewall Inn, which is located in Christopher Street in Greenwich Village, New York City, was owned by... It is still there. So it's not in its original... No, but we're going to go next time I go, trust me. So it was owned by the Genovese crime family, and it used to be a restaurant and a nightclub for the straights before it was turned into a gay bar. Okay. Police officers would collect a weekly payoff, which was known as a gayola. Gayola pools. And as most gay establishments in the time, the inn didn't have a liquor license, so it couldn't legally sell liquor, the Stonewall Inn. Okay. There was no running water. So glasses would be shook clean in a dirty tub of water, filled back up with watered down liquor that was supplied by the mob, and served at double the price you'd pay at a standard bar down the road. It was, however, the only bar for gay men in New York City where dancing was allowed. So that was the draw card. Everyone went there.
Gay women? No
there
one
was,
really cared about gay women at that point.
Unfortunately, that's probably the case, but lesbians were allowed in the Stonewall, but they say that the clientele was basically made up of 98% men 2% women. That 98% of men there was a percentage that were all drag queens. There was also 50-50 split between coloureds and white people. So it was a very fucking
I can't imagine
diverse
being a minority in any type of group in that age, Garrett. Like, it's just insane to me. Like, I just think, oh, I can't even
born
relate.
into that, and that's what you're born into, and that's what you got to deal with.
No, I just can't imagine. I'm very fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, and look, even in today's day, there are certain things that I have experienced as a gay man, or I've been afraid to be myself or be my true self because of my homosexuality.
Yeah, I know
but,
that.
But I haven't. I mean, I didn't go through it as bad as my gay forefathers did. You know what I mean?
But even like my ability to be so super naive about it is that I sometimes think about that, and you've told me about that, and I always think because you're so amazing and because you're so confident in life, and you're so happy and stuff like that, I forget that sometimes. I forget that sometimes you are in situations where you feel like you are prejudiced against because there's certain circumstances where you've said that to me, and I'm just like, oh my God, because you take it so well. And because I am, a heterosexual woman, which is a different situation, I forget that. But I also think that, it's just.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't walk down the street holding Vinny's hand.
I know.
Purely based on the fact of the people around me. You know what I mean? Like, if we're in a gay bar, I'll totally sit there and we'll touch each other and, be affectionate and whatnot. If we're in a straight bar, I'm like, don't touch me. And, like, Vinny doesn't really care about it as much as I do. But, like, as soon as he touches me, it just puts me off. Like, it's just like my back goes up and my defenses go up. And, like, what if people see? And that's just instilled to you from your childhood, shit like that, and school years and whatnot. But anyway, back to the Stonewall. So it also had the whole bouncer situation where they'd look through a keyhole in the door to let people in, and you'd either have to know the doorman or look gay to get in. So
or have a code.
So
or
to
have
avoid
a code.
being busted.
I love bars that have a code.
Dorothy knocks twice on her heels.
Yes.
Let me in. It's 3 times, bitch. Get out.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
And that's what they used to use as a slang word back then too. If you were a friend of Dorothy, that meant you were gay.
Of course. Liza Minnelli, friend to the gays forever.
It's Judy Garland, please.
Who do I say?
Liza's mother.
It's the daughter.
It's Liza's mum.
Liza's mum, of course, but Liza, no, Judy Garland, but Liza Minnelli is the friend to the gays forever.
She is also a friend of the gays.
Was Judy Garland as much?
Yeah.
She was a little bit protected, wasn't she?
I don't know. I think towards the end she realised she had the gay following and went with it. I don't know. But anyway, so to avoid being busted by the cops for underage drinking and all that stuff, that's why they had the little peephole and to see who would get in. So the Stonewall Inn itself had one point of entry. I provided a diagram in our promos for it, but there was one point of entry, 2 dance floors and bars and toilets. And there was a little room at the back that allowed the queens who were there where they could tease their hair and fix their makeup, etc. But it was just one entry point. So in the early morning hours of the 28th of June, 1969, the 9 police raided the Stonewall Inn. The lights went on straight away, signaling that the police were there and for people to stop dancing and touching each other. Patrons were then required to line up against the wall, show their ID, and then leave the club. IDs had to be shown, and it wasn't unusual or uncommon practice back then to extort known wealthy people, for payments and whatnot. So those without ID, and because newspapers would out people once they were ID'd and stuff like that.
Sometimes I'm a little bit unsympathetic to wealthy people, though. If you're wealthy enough, it's.
I know, but
other people are let free.
Yeah, no, but they're holding the fact that you're gay against you, and you have to pay them for just being gay, so they wouldn't put your name in the paper and stuff like that and out you to everyone. It was terrible. Those without ID who were dressed in full drag were arrested, and those who were in drag were taken to the restrooms by female officers where they would verify their gender for them. So it was fucking humiliating for them. But this raid, however, unlike any other one, didn't go as planned. These people were very fucking angry and sick of the shit that they were going through. It wasn't just the clubs and the raids. It was about being bashed constantly by the police and the public, both verbally and physically. There was murders that would happen that no one gave a shit about. If you're a gay person, didn't matter. The general treatment that LGBT people were scum, creeps, freaks, etc. They were really treated so badly.
It doesn't matter what you think about someone else. There's no excuse for, like, you know, violence or any type of horrible abuse.
As you said before, they're taking away their humanity, you know. So anyway, during the raids as well, police would start assaulting lesbians by filling them up inappropriately while they were being frisked. And it just would have been a constant fucking thing that they went through all the time. But this night, when people who were allowed to leave the club, they didn't just go anywhere. They all congregated at the front. And all the commotion that was happening also drew crowds of other people passing by. And the crowd began to grow and watch what was happening at the Stonewall.
So we're in Greenwich Village in New York. So other people who were non-gays also congregated.
Just walking past. Yeah. So, you know, back in the days as well there, and, you know, like people knew where to go. So this is obviously before the internet, but like, you know when a town's a bad town, or where the preacher at your church is saying, don't go to Greenwich Village, the gays go there, don't go to San Francisco and rah.
Or don't listen to the police because the police are fucking corrupt.
Fully corrupt, exactly. But the churches didn't say that. So anyway, this night the people started congregating out the front. There was people in the village that were obviously not straight that lived there as well. They all started begin to watch, and they say within minutes the crowd grew to 100 to 150 people.
Oh my God.
People weren't just released from the club either. When they showed their ID, they were forcibly removed and they were kicked and pushed into the street. These people saw the crowds gathering around them as they were getting kicked out, and they used it as an opportunity to perform and would pose for them or take the piss out of the cops and do over-the-top salutes. And when they did this, they were getting applause from the crowd, which of course egged them on to do more. So by the time they're sort of sending out the people, and by the time the first patrol car arrives, the crowd had tripled. So it's now up to 450, 500 people at the front of this one pub.
That's why New York's New York, isn't it?
New York,
people
baby.
Are fucking crazy. They love it.
So they started loading people into the wagons, and the crowd started chanting things like "gay power" and "we shall overcome." And a copper shoves a drag queen to the ground, and she gets up and she hits her on the head with her purse, and the crowd love it and begins to grow more restless and angry, and the emotion is really getting high now. You know, so the people that were there, I'd say like about 80% of them would have been LGBTQ people. The rest would have been tourists looking on, and there would have been people from all the other clubs around the area too coming out and seeing what the fuck's happening.
Yeah.
A scuffle breaks out when a woman in handcuffs is escorted to a car from the bar. She escapes repeatedly and fights the four officers, swearing and shouting at them. She then complains the handcuffs are too tight, and one of the officers hits her over the head with the baton. And it's reported the woman's name was Storm DeLavery, and I think I'm saying that right, or Storme DeLavery.
She didn't die, did she?
No, she didn't die. She turns around to the crowds at that point. She shouts, "Why don't you guys do something?" And then an officer grabs her and heaves her into the back of a wagon, and then the crowd becomes a mob, and they become violent. They start throwing bottles and pennies, and they're lighting garbage and throwing garbage at them and garbage cans.
Fucking oath.
They're throwing the pennies at the police as well, because they're signifying that as a payoff, taking the piss. Here's your money, go fuck off, because you're only raiding the club because you didn't get paid off. Here's your money, fuck off. And so they start doing that at the police and they start fighting back. So at this stage, the police are severely outnumbered and they know it. And they all head. So there's 9 police at this stage. And as the police cars are taking the wagons off, the guy who's in charge is like, bring the wagons back ASAP because they know shit's going down. So the police then all head into the Stonewall Inn and lock themselves in there for protection, along with some of the other queens that they'd already arrested and some of the other patrons. At that point, the tactical patrol force of NYCPD arrived to free the police trapped in the Stonewall. They were humiliated because the fairies had never fought back before. It had never happened. And they were angry. Yeah, that's what they say. And they were angrier than ever. No group had ever forced the cops to retreat before. And as quoted by an anonymous participant at Stonewall, he said, and I quote, "When did you ever see a fag fight back? Now times are a-changing. Tuesday night was the last night for bullshit." And that was the Tuesday night prior to this raid, where they did the other raid. Predominantly the theme was the shit has got to stop. It was chaos. They were saying that you could turn around and look and you'd see people were fighting the police were fighting back. And they said the drag queens were also in there fighting furiously, including one named Marsha P. Johnson, who allegedly climbed a lamppost and dropped a heavy bag onto a cop car, smashing its windscreen. Love it. An African-American drag queen, that was, Marsha P. Johnson. But Michael Fader, who participated in the riot, said, and this is a long quote, but it's very important, make it emotional, "We all had a collective feeling like we'd had enough of this kind of shit. It wasn't anything tangible anyone had said to anyone else. It was just kind of like everything over the years had come to a head on that one particular night, in that one particular place. And it was not an organized demonstration. Everyone in the crowd felt that we were never going to go back. It was like the last straw. It was time to reclaim something that had always been taken away from us. All kinds of people, all different reasons, but mostly it was total outrage, anger, sorrow, everything combined, and everything just kind of ran its course. It was the police who were doing most of the destruction. We were really trying to get back in and break free, and we felt that we had freedom at last, or freedom to at least show that we demanded freedom. We weren't going to be walking meekly in the night and letting them shove us around. It's like standing your ground for the first time in a really strong way. And that's what caught the police by surprise. There was something in the air, freedom, a long time overdue, and we were going to fight for it. It took different forms, but the bottom line is we weren't going to go away, and we didn't."
Oh, my heart.
I know. I love that, and I love the energy behind that. The energy behind it is so
I
fucking...
just can never relate to any type of situation where I would ever stop someone from trying to just live their life. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't understand it, and it's really hard for me to relate to it because, especially because I'm in a different category than you are. Look, the only situation I'm in is that I'm a woman, and again, it just hurts my heart. I want to believe that the world is not filled with people like that. Do you know what I mean?
And then you see Facebook comments,
but it's just,
everyone wants to be happy, right? Everyone just wants to be happy in life.
But then you see movements like that in history
that are trying to stop people from being happy
it,
for no reason.
Like people who build themselves up for a single cause, and it's like, why do you have to do this? Why do other people protest you? I don't
Where does this come from?
Like, and I know that it's not
and
like
all
I'm
of that
from a sheltered lifestyle. I know that that's what it is come from. Like, I'm so naive from the fact I've lived in a sheltered life, but I just don't understand the hate that people feel.
It's a lack of comprehension. I totally get it. I can't comprehend it either. And it's like, and these teachings that everyone's taught and it's instilled in them, and then they teach their children and all that stuff, and then you grow up in that family. And a lot of the people, as I was saying before, grow up in those families, actually identify as gay. There were people that when back in these days, because homosexuality just wasn't spoken about. And if it was, or if you found out that you could label yourself because you didn't know what you were,
Yeah,
until
you
you
had
realise,
to.
you know,
You had to say you were homosexual. You had no
or
choice
you
to label
understood,
us any other way.
or someone said the word what homosexuality was is about liking the same gender. Then you'd look up homosexuality, and all that it would tell you about homosexuality was the most derogatory things, the most horrible things. They used to put ad campaigns, ad campaigns out there. You know, it could be your neighbor, it could be this person, and they made everyone look like they were absolute fucking deviants because they were
Yeah.
homosexual.
Oh,
It's fucked
totally.
up.
Totally. It's insane.
So at this stage of the riots, the tactical police force, they formed a phalanx, which is, you know, where they go arm in arm together and shit. They got their shields on and they just start marching forward one by one, step after the other, and they attempt to clear the streets as they slowly march towards the crowd, pushing them back. The mob mocks them and they start openly doing this impromptu kick line. And I mean, is there any other kind besides an
I love
impromptu
a
kick
kick line.
line?
It's my
I love a fucking
favorite.
kick line. And they started singing songs at them. And there was one song, it's like, we are the Greenwich girls. Look at our lovely curls. You can see our pubic hair. We don't wear underwear and shit like that. And they're doing a kick line. So the police are not happy with this. And so they rush at them at this stage and they start smashing the gays with their bats, mainly in their back and their legs on the first night. The second night, when things really picked up again, they started just walloping people in their heads. The gays were saying there was just bodies everywhere laying around and whatever.
So you're
But by
saying
4
it's
a.m.
getting worse? I thought it was already really bad. It's getting worse.
Oh no, it got more violent, much more violent. So they did things where the mob would sort of, when the mob started fighting back and there was only limited amount of police there, they started chasing them. So the blocks in Greenwich Village are quite small and streets coming off, so it's like a little maze. So they'd run around one block where the police would coming, and then they'd disperse up another street while the other half would go down one street. But then when they'd ran around the block, they'd end up behind the police and we'd be pushing them into the other mob of the gays coming the other way and stuff like that. So they just got violent. At least it wasn't in today's age where they just would have fucking shot people. You know what I mean? So the Stonewall is destroyed by the TPF. Mirrors the smoke machines, not as in like ones that produce smoke, but the cigarette machines, the booze, the joke boxes, all of that was just smashed to buggery. The next day, the mob restocked the Stonewall completely and paint on the wall, we are open. And later that night, even more people turn up to the club. So on the first night, there was about 500 to 600 in the mob. And this night, there's over 1,000 people there. But there's also a lot more popo.
But they're also going to get injured, aren't they?
They do. So this is when the popo actually went real full force. So the first night was the Friday night. This is Saturday night. This is where they just fucking bash the shit out of them, bash them in the heads. There was fucking unconscious bodies everywhere. They start capturing over 100 demonstrators, but they targeted the sissies or the swishers, as they called them. But as they'd grab someone that was a sissy, the crowd would sort of jump in and grab the person back and try and pull them back into their crowd and shit like that. The riot ends up lasting for 6 nights. Some nights are worse than others, but the same deal with protesters clashing against police. The following year, however, so after this all happened, after about the 6th night of riots, the people sort of lull down. The message is made that the gays aren't taking this anymore. They've made their statement. This is where we're at. So it's also the time when newspapers were reporting. So the press that was coming out about it, it depended which paper you read. Some sided with the police, some sided with the gays. But there also was around the time where they had their little independent and presses, you know, like they would produce little one-page fucking leaflets and hand them out in the street and shit like that. You had your alternative press, I guess. So they'd started, all the little LGBTQ activist groups started producing all their own media about and to try and create awareness and not propaganda, but, you know, sort of just awareness of their situation and what was going on, and started rallying their own troops together. So people who were never out started coming out and actually forming part of this alliance. And then they organised the following year, on the anniversary of the Stonewall Riots, the groups had organised a pride march to mark the occasion. And simultaneous marches were held in New York City, Chicago, and LA. It was the first in US history. The next year, marches took place in those cities, but also in Boston, Dallas, Milwaukee, London, Paris, West Berlin, and Stockholm. And the Pride marches were born. It started to become an international fucking thing. And
In
it's been year after year.
Has it been 1970?
1970, yeah. From there onwards, that's when like basically the Pride marches were born. And in that documentary I was mentioning earlier, there's one of the guys who says he remembers being on the train and they were heading towards this to this march, and they're like, fuck. And he saw someone he knew, and he started talking to them. They're like, there's going to only be 10 people there. You know, they didn't know what to expect. So they get to the march and they start marching, and with each block, the fucking crowd grows and grows, and it ends up being in over thousands, like 5,000 people during the first march, and people actually celebrating on the street. I'm getting goosebumps all over my legs. You should see them. I look like a fucking plug.
I'm getting goosebumps because I love it so much.
And it was their moment to when it was like, do you remember when we did the Pride March the day I met Vinny in 2010?
And we went walking. Link was like 3 or 2 even.
It was on shoulders getting marched around.
Baby.
And you march the street, and you'd have the fucking wankers that would stand on the side, leaning up against you, shaking their heads at you and stuff like that. But then you'd walk under a bridge, and there'd be all these people and families, like guys, women, their children, all hanging, applauding you. And the amount of empowerment that gave after being so fucking. When you grow up gay, when I grew up gay, there was a lot of self-hatred. There was a lot of horrible thoughts that you had about yourself, that you didn't want to be, and all that shit. And then when you march down the street and you've got all these people celebrating you for who you are, not you personally, but you as a sexuality and whatever, it gave so much validity to being alive, to actually being able to be who you are. And it fucking...
Do you know how important it is for heteros to live? That's why I made Link a march when he was little, because I wanted him to understand and people used to say to me, like, what are you doing? Why are you forcing this on him? It's like, I'm not forcing anything on him. I just want him to understand that sexuality is different, and I don't want him. I'm not saying to him he has to be gay. I don't give a fuck who he likes. I don't give a fuck if he's bi, or if he's hetero, or if he's trans, or whatever the fuck, as long as he's happy. But I want him to understand that we have to fight for our rights as Australians and our sexual rights. And, you know, and he is like completely nonplussed about any of it now. He's just so, it is what it is. He's like sexuality, it's so fluid to him. He doesn't really...
And that's the thing. And that's what I think I've noticed in the last years. Like, now that fucking non-binary and all that stuff is becoming more prominent, asexual people, women. But it's just also back then too, it was pretty much a category, gay, straight.
You're 100% right. So maybe you would have known earlier, or maybe you wouldn't have, but maybe you would have had more freedom to experience it.
Instead of forcing yourselves into it, experiencing things with women when you didn't really want to, or even with men when you didn't really want to. You know, you just do what you go with the flow. I think that there is a lot of more gender fluidity now, because it's much more acceptable. There's a lot more flamboyant straight men. There's a lot more butch gay men. Same with women. You can have butch straight women, really lady gay women. It's just like you don't have to be pigeonholed. Just be you.
But I also think that there's a lot of like the high school stuff where girls or boys just say they're going to be something or they're not.
Based on the fad.
Particularly the girls on the fads. And I just think, you know, just let them figure it out, like support them.
But that's just all about liberation as well. So that's just where they can actually say they are. And whether they're not, whatever, you know, it's just like, it's just sort of this, all of them sudden, it's okay to be whatever. Well, and it's not really as okay as it is, but it's semi-okay. You know, there is more activists out there for it. But then I bet you in about 50 years' time, people will grow up and they won't have to come out. They won't have to come out as straight. They won't have to come out as gay. They'll just be who they are. If they're interested in a woman,
I don't know,
100
50 years.
Maybe
I don't
100.
know. I think it's too pigeonholed enough. I think the gender stuff, people are going to hold on to it too much. Like, I don't know that it's going to be that fluid. Like, I hope for people who aren't fluidly sexual in a certain way that it is easier for them. 100%. I do, because I can't relate to what they've gone through. I don't know that it's even in 100 years it's ever going to be like that.
Oh, I think so. I do, because like you think this is less than 100 years ago, and it's gone from that to this. And
yeah,
like,
you're right. You're absolutely right. And I can't relate because I'm hetero. I can never relate to what you've been through. I can never relate.
So yeah, so that's my my piece on the Stonewall Riots. And I would like to show uber respect, massive respect to my gay forefathers before me, who went through this, who actually stood up and fucking fought against it. I don't know if I was in that situation or if I was back then gay. I don't know if I would have had the gonads to have done it. I'd like to think that I wish I had. I know I fought for gay rights in my life after picking out, and I know we've got a long way to go with trans rights, and I'm on board to fight for those as well. So anyway, let's go on to something more positive. Let's go on to your story. That's all rainbows and lollipops, isn't it?
I know. I don't know if my story's going to be that much rainbows politics, because after I researched it, I feel like there's like a whole mass amazing injustice. Okay, so I'm going to start with one thing that I've said to you a couple of times in the last couple of weeks since I said that I was going to do Azaria Chamberlain. One time I saw Lindy Chamberlain at Brisbane Airport.
You did.
And it was because it's a really funny story. But back when I had lounge access to Virgin, when I was travelling for work all the time, and I used to go in lounge access. So my mum and I were attending a family funeral in Sydney, and Mum was staying with me, and I was travelling for work, and I took her to the Virgin Lounge for the first time. Why is your mouth like that? Why are you looking at me like that?
I was thinking, didn't Lindy Chamberlain die?
She's not dead. She's still alive. No. Her husband died.
That's right. He died of yes.
2018, I think. Yeah. I didn't make notes about that, but anyway. So when I saw Lindy Chamberlain in the Brisbane airport, it was probably about 2016, 2017. Anyway, so Mum and I got really drunk in the Virgin Lounge. She was impressed by the fact because we'd gone to a family funeral. I was working. I picked her up. We went to the airport together. We got shit-faced in the lounge with all the free alcohol,
Love
free
that.
food. And then we also got on the plane, and Campbell Newman was on the plane. And because back then I had like VIP version access, so I was like in the first 4 rows. So Campbell Newman was like 2 rows ahead of me. My mum was like, look at that wanker. What a fucking wanker. Because she'd gotten drunk in the lounge with me, so she kept calling him a wanker most of the way through the flight. One of my most proud moments of my mum.
Yeah.
Because normally it would be me going, what a wanker. Mum was like, look at that wanker. Oh. And he kept talking through the flight. Mum was like, shut up, you dickhead. And you wonder where I get it from.
Yes.
We got really loose because we'd had some free drinks. And then also we saw Campbell Newman, who was the premier of...
was he premier at that stage?
No. But after that, when we landed in Brisbane, we disembarked and we were getting our shit. And that's when we saw Lindy Chamberlain. And I said to Mum, I poked her and I said, that's Lindy Chamberlain. Mum said, what are you talking about? Because she was super drunk after that crazy fight where she abused Campbell Newman. He deserved it.
Yes.
And she was like, what are you talking about? I said, that is Lindy Chamberlain. She's like, oh my God, that's Lindy Chamberlain. And then we had to go to the car park, like the thing where, our cars were parked or Dad was waiting for us or whatever. And we followed her for ages because she was going to the same spot that we were going. The whole time me and Mum were going, that's Lindy Chamberlain. Shh, no. That's Lindy Chamberlain. Shh, I know. We were both doing it to each other. And all
Alicia
the way,
scream out, "A
she
dingo
kept-
stole your baby!"
she kept looking at us and staring at us because we both kept yelling out, "That's Lindy Chamberlain!" She totally knew that we were following her, but we weren't following her, just going to the same car park. But we were also like, oh my God, that's Lindy Chamberlain. She has a really, like, face that you would recognise. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Oh, yeah. It's an instant recognition, yeah.
You have to cut all this out because I'm so drunk. I haven't actually said it. I think that's worth any time. I spent one whole paragraph just talking about drunk stuff.
No, you spent about a minute going, "That's Lindy Chamberlain." I know. That's Lindy Chamberlain.
And I said my mum was yelling at Campbell Gillard. I mean, Campbell Newman.
Campbell Gillard.
Gillard is a football player for the Eels. I'm sorry.
Julia Gillard was the Prime Minister of Australia.
Campbell Gillard is a football player for the Eels. I got confused for a second.
Don't be sorry.
I'm serious.
So you and your mum saw Lindy Chamberlain. Did she communicate with you?
No, we just followed her to the car park. She's going to the same car park that we were going to. We just followed
And
her.
every time she
But
looked
the whole
back
time, I know, the whole time.
every time she looked over her shoulder at you, you just smiled.
Me and Mum were doing this the whole time. That's Lindy Chamberlain. That's Lindy Chamberlain.
Poor bitch. She went
Dad,
through some shit.
And then Dad picked us up eventually. Yeah.
She went through some shit.
That's
what? So go for it. Go. What happened?
Okay. All right. Do you want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah.
I'm going to cut out the whole Lindy Chamberlain at Brisbane Airport bit.
I can use bits of that to fill it in.
If you're Australian and born on 1999, you know the phrase, "A dingo stole my baby," and what it represents.
But it's more said like, "A dingo stole my baby."
No. So for those listening who have never heard of Azaria Chamberlain, let me talk about the case. Yes. Azaria Chamberlain Chamberlain, born 11th of June 1980, less than a month after me. She's a little bit younger than I. Was a 9-week-old baby girl, now legally declared to have been killed by dingo in August 1980, whilst her family were camping at Uluru in the Northern Territory, which you can't do that anymore. You cannot camp in Uluru at all. So it should be. Her parents claimed at the time she was taken from her tent. However, Lindy Chamberlain, the mother, was later tried for murder and spent more than 3 years in prison. From my personal recollection of the case, granted I was an infant at the time because I was born in 1980. So
but the case went on for years, and it's something we all knew about growing up as children. I know it as a teenager, yeah.
So even after she was acquitted, I was still a child. I was still like a baby. I was like 4 years old after she was acquitted, but I still had my own opinions from what other people's opinions were. After researching the case, I think that that's insane, and she was clearly innocent.
Yeah.
But also, who camps in Uluru with a 9-week-old baby? But also, like, that's the only thing that I feel that's hanging over my head, questionably. But all the other evidence appears to be that, you know, she never did it.
But the evidence still shows that she was alive at the campsite as a 9-week-old baby. Yeah. So they did. It wasn't like a false statement. They did camp there.
Oh, there's so much things that the fucking...
Wasn't she pregnant when she went to jail as well?
Oh, I don't know about that. Actually, that's not come up in my research, but you could be right. I do actually think that I heard that, but I don't think... So I know she had 2 boys, and then there was Azaria, and she had another boy.
Yeah.
but he was born in 82, so I think she went to prison in 83. But you could be right. But the father, who did 18 months as a co-conspirator, which was later...
Did he go to jail too as well?
Yeah, but he's dead now. He died of cancer.
That's right.
But they got $1.3 million settlement after the fact when they were, it was realised that they were wrongly accused, but $1.3 million was a third of the money that they spent on their defence. It was nothing. There was no monetary goal that they ever got. They're just completely in the hole because of everything that happened. And it was mostly construed to be the fact that the police and the media got it wrong. The police get it wrong. The media were just insane about it.
They wanted someone to blame, and they couldn't blame a dingo. They wanted someone to blame. But I've just had a look now, and on October 29, 1982, Lindy, heavily pregnant, is found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment.
She did 3 years in prison. Yeah. You could be right then.
No, it's in there. She's heavily pregnant, yeah. Carlia was born in custody in November, a month after.
Oh, shit. So what happened to the baby?
So I think the father received an 18-month suspended sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Maybe, so he probably looked after.
That was Michael Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So he looked after the baby, but then she eventually got out. Yeah. It's actually a horrible story if truthfully they didn't have anything to do with it, which it actually kind of sounds like they didn't.
They didn't.
It was kind of a weird, dumb thing to go camping with a 9-week-old in the middle of fucking Uluru in, seriously, the Northern Territory. That's an insane thing that any normal person would ever...
But it's also their home, so it's also stuff that they're used to. It's like if you went camping to fucking...
Oh, they were tourists. They weren't, hanging out there. They were tourists. But, okay, think about it. If I said to you tomorrow, I've got a 5-week-old baby and I'm going to go hang out in Uluru, Northern Territory, which I have no actual connection to, you can understand why the public might have been a little tiny bit skeptical. However, it feels like in the public of the court of public opinion, she was totally fucked over, and that's pretty much why she served jail time. And that's also why she got so much money back, but it was nothing compared to how much money she spent.
Because they had appeals and all that shit that were overturned as well, yeah.
Yeah. So she actually went to jail for 3 years, proper jail for 3 years. She was in prison. And then they eventually let her out. So, all right, I'm going to go through my notes. So, this is how it happened. Azaria Chamberlain, born 11th of June 1918, less than a month after, was a 9-week-old baby girl, now legally declared to have been killed by a dingo in August 1980, whilst her family were camping in Uluru in the Northern Territory. So it's legally on her birth certificate now that she's dead because of a dingo. Her parents claimed at the time she was taken from her tent. However, Lindy was later tried for murder and spent more than 3 years in prison. From my recollection of the case, granted I was an infant at the time, I believe that one of the cases that she was tried more in the court, I believe that she was tried more in the court of public opinion to be guilty rather than the actual court of law. However, despite being legally declared innocent, I'm sure you could swing a car and not hit someone who strongly believes Lindy Chamberlain was responsible for the death of her baby.
Of course, yeah.
I think after all the facts that are presented, I 100% think that Lindy Chamberlain is innocent. But when I was growing up, every single
that
you ever talked to would say she killed her baby.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that was her.
And again, what's the motive?
Well, that's part of it. There was no motive. So Azaria Chamberlain's body was never found. Michael also served 18 months. So Lindy did 3, and Michael, her husband, did 18 months. So they didn't just get off scot-free. They didn't just kill their baby and fucking walk away. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it's, I just think it's like a horrible situation. And
terrible.
Fucking wanted to kill them for it.
Especially if you're innocent. Well, she was innocent. I believe she's innocent.
I believe now that she
saw the dingo run away, didn't she? She saw the dingo run away with the baby, and that's why she screamed, "The dingo stole my baby."
No, the baby was gone. She didn't. So that's the weird thing. I think that's why the public didn't really understand. Why would you take a 9-month baby to Uluru? In the middle of nowhere. I think that was the hard part for the Australian public to understand.
But who knows? The father could have been very fucking like, we're going on this holiday. It's the only holiday we've got booked, and rah. Who knows?
Oh,
you see people with fucking babies that young on planes going to fucking Europe and shit, you know?
Of course. People don't care about shit. I know, but that's insane to me. But also, I can understand why the public opinion, but that's not enough. Public opinion is not enough to convict someone.
Exactly. And it's also her third baby, so she's fucking an old hand at it. She knows what she's doing with. She's like, yep, no, it's fine. Let's go away. We need a break. The family need it. Who knows what was happening?
Yeah. So, Lindy Chamberlain was eventually paid $1.3 million for false imprisonment, a sum that covered less than 1/3 of their legal costs.
Oh my God.
Yes,
so all their legal costs.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There was many appeals, and whilst campers, rangers, trackers, searchers, and local police all believed the child to be taken by a dingo, she was still convicted and imprisoned, sentenced to life imprisonment from 1982.
There would have been fucking dingo prints around the tent and shit like that, yeah.
There's so much worse that happens. The police investigation was highly criticised, and the trial was accused of being unprofessional and biased, and the intense media focus was considered to be a part of that.
100%, yeah.
Everyone wanted to say she wanted to kill her baby. They just all were like, she was a horrible mother, she did this, she did that. At the time, baby Azaria's disappearance, her jumpsuit was found bloodstained and torn at the throat.
And that was was that around the base of Ayers Rock or something they found that?
That's the second bit. So this is the original. Okay, so the baby went missing. So what happened was she was there, she was put to bed, Lindy Chamberlain was like hanging out. She had 2 boys at the time. She was like hanging out. She went back. She like fed her and stuff. She put her back to sleep. She went back.
It was the 80s, like it was
hanging out with the rest of her family and all of the camping people. So everyone knew each other. They were all like having a camping thing at Ayers Rock. There was other people there. It wasn't them. There was other people there. She put the baby to bed. She went back. Baby was in the tent. She went back after a little bit to check on the baby. Everyone was cool. Everyone was happy. And she went back to check on the baby, and the baby was gone. She freaked out. Baby's gone. Oh my God, where's my 9-week-old baby who can't even crawl? The baby's gone. Everyone went psycho. They're looking around for this baby. Like, literally psychotic.
Yeah.
In the middle of fucking nowhere in Uluru, right? So,
and it does say that on the night she maintained that she saw a dingo leave the tent where Azaria was sleeping. Yeah.
So at the time of baby Azaria's disappearance, her jumpsuit was found, bloodstained and torn at the throat, right? The prosecution's version of events was that Lindy slit her baby's throat in the family car at Tirana, whilst her husband and sons, 2 little baby sons, little toddlers, sons, were at a nearby campfire. When she shouted soon after that her baby daughter was missing, the rest of the family and the other campers who were hanging out with the family while she was feeding the baby, she fed the baby, left the baby to go to sleep, came back to the campfire, went to look after the baby again, and that's when the baby was gone. And when she shouted to her husband and the boys, "Oh my God, the baby's gone," all the campers came together and were like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," because they'd already known each other, like they'd been hanging out and stuff. Everyone freaked out. They're all looking for the baby, whatever. So they were all...
That's a question too. And there was all this guilt presumed about her, but the baby's gone missing in the short time that she's fucking gone and put the baby back and gone and look on it and said the baby's gone. They couldn't find the body. What did she do with? What are they assuming that she did with the body and all that time? They searched that area.
This is why she went to jail. So this is what happened, right? So the real reason they feel is that after she yelled at the other campers while everyone was scrambling, trying to find the baby, they think she's disposed of the baby's body then, right? But everyone in Australia was convinced that Lindy Chamberlain had killed that baby. Everyone was. There was no one in Australia who thought she hadn't killed the baby. So at the time of baby Azaria's disappearance, her jumpsuit that she was dressed in was found bloodstained and torn at the throat. The prosecution's version of events was that Lindy slit her baby's throat in the family car, whilst her husband and sons, her two young toddler sons, sat at a nearby campfire. While she shouted soon after that her baby was missing, her family and other campers were occupied with the search while she disposed of the infant's body. So they're saying that she fed the baby in the car, went back, hung out with her family, went back and said she was looking for the baby and looking after the baby, and then after that she screamed, "Oh my God, the baby's gone!" And then people in the campsite, the nearby campsites were like, "Oh my God," and that's when they said she disposed of the body.
Yeah.
Lindy... Okay, so the main reasons for the guilty verdict were there were traces of fetal hemoglobin found in the front seat of the family's Tirana hatchback. So fetal hemoglobin, which is blood stains, blood traces, is present in infants 6 months and younger. Azaria Chamberlain is 9 weeks younger, 9 weeks old, so super tight. So Lindy was also questioned about the clothes Azaria was wearing. She said the baby had on a jumpsuit, a singlet, and a matinee jacket. The jumpsuit was the item found blood-stained, and the singlet was found inside out. So Lindy was adamant that she would never put a singlet on any of her babies that was inside out. So, she had 2 babies already, so this was her 3rd baby, so she was like, I would not put a singlet on. So what happened was they found the jumpsuit, and inside the jumpsuit was the singlet, but it was inside out in a jumpsuit. So that was she said, so Lindy Chamberlain said she was wearing a jumpsuit, a singlet, and a matinee jacket, which is like a little
cardigan type.
Yeah, a weird thing that they do. So they were like, that's weird. She said this, it's bullshit, right? It's absolute bullshit. And then when they found the jumpsuit, which was blood-stained, it had a singlet on, but it was inside out. And she was like, I'd never put a singlet on my baby inside out. When I read this, I said, this is bullshit because it's super easy to do with those baby singlets. It's hard to know which way is inside or outside, to be honest. The seams are so fine. I had put inside out, I'd never been able to tell the right way for an inside-outside fucking singlet. I think that's a...
Well, there'd be the tag. There'd be on that side.
But
and she's also...
No, it's totally sewed in, and it's also on the seam. Those baby singlets, that I know exactly what you're saying, but it's insane. You can never know. Yeah. So they're saying that she is full of shit because she says, and she was adamant, she's like, I would never...
but maybe she's just also that adamant about it, I would never do that, but she did fuck up that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's so easy to flip those singlets around. because the whole thing, I've done it 1,000 times.
So even though she may have done it, she was probably adamant she hadn't, but she didn't know she was being full of shit when she was saying it.
And that's what I'm thinking too, because she was so like, fuck you guys for fucking accusing me for fucking saying I'm a bad mother, and I killed my baby. I would never put a singlet. I've had 2 other babies and all that. How dare you say I can't put a singlet on me? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
However, it gets worse.
God.
So, all witnesses were on the Chamberlain side. Every single fucking tracker, camper, copper, fucking ranger were all on the chamber. They were all like, nah.
That should have some weight behind it.
I know. However, the blood residue and the missing jacket inside out singlet were enough for a jury to convict her. Eek.
Wow.
In 1980, I know, and it brought up the whole shit about Australia and all the consequences of legal stuff and how fucked it is. In 1986, after the unfortunate death of a British tourist, Azaria was missing in 1980, right? August 1980, she went missing, presumed dead from the murder of her parents / fucking dingoes. So 6 years later, in 1986, after the unfortunate death of a British tourist who fell climbing Uluru, Azaria's matinee jacket, which was the piece of clothing that was missing, was found when police were searching for the remains of the tourist because he fell from a really large height and they couldn't find all of his bones. The jacket was found in an area full of dingo lairs.
Near Uluru, yeah.
Yeah.
So they found the matinee jacket.
Furthermore, the test claimed that the trace blood found in the Chamberlain's Tirana, the car that they said they found trace bloods in there, was proven to be unreliable, and that other organic compounds such as mucus from the nose and even chocolate milkshakes, both of which were in the car, could be present in the same manner as the fetal hemoglobin statement. So remember how they said that they had evidence to believe that Linda Chamberlain had stabbed her in the front of the car?
Blood there.
There was evidence and there was blood, but it was only like infant hemoglobin. It wasn't like it was only infant hemoglobin. They were saying like it could also prove to be nose mucus or also chocolate milk. Or
chocolate milk, fuck's sake. Yeah.
So at the same manner, so the 9, it was pretty much found that she was allowed to be released from prison because they fucking fucked it all up. And it's continually said to be that the fact is that the whole case was won and lost in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
That a whole nation of people believed that Linda Chamberlain killed her baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about the reaction that she had during the press as well, where she didn't come across as fully emotionally distraught. She wasn't like crying and rah, rah. She was stone cold, but she fucking was numb from the fact that a fucking took her baby. Yeah.
I know, right? And imagine
everyone's
that's
thinking,
insane.
And everyone's thinking that she's guilty. So you'd just be like frozen. You'd just be like, I don't know how I'm meant to react. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's crazy. And she really fought. Like, that's a story of a woman fighting to clear her name when clearly the evidence was against her in a completely fucked up way. And it was lucky they found the matinee jacket in there.
Yeah, because otherwise she wouldn't have gotten out.
Yeah, and she would be forever living her life. And she ended up having one more baby, but the dad died of cancer. Thanks for listening. That was the 1980 case of Cryptonation and sparked the internationally recognised phrase, a dingo stole my baby. Lindy Chamberlain was fucking framed. We understand that now. Have a great night, you stupid bitches.
So thanks for listening to Stupid Bitches Say What. We hope you enjoyed our trip back in time. don't forget, if you like what you hear, tell your mates and follow our socials and YouTube channel.
Also, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at stupidbsaywhat@gmail.com for feedback, topic suggestions, or just general chit chat. Join us next week as we cover the month that was November 2021. You stupid bitches. Also, I'm super drunk. Don't judge me for slurring my words, you stupid bitches.
We can tell. Hashtag second bottle. Hashtag no judgment.
Hashtag third bottle almost.
Oh, stupid bitches. Bye.
Okay, I'm going to cut this bit. I'm going to go from the
Yeah.
beginning. It's messed me up a little bit and I'm pretty drunk.
Let me just get another bottle of wine. Hang on.
I'm going to have a sip.
You ground yourself.
There's so much wine. Okay. All right, you have to help me stay on
Okay.
track.
All right. I will be on point to this. Okay.
I'm not
So
allowed
you and your mum.
any more wine. No more wine.
As well.
I know you can't say that.
All right.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.